What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be talking about a camera that I have been using for almost a year now. I instantly knew that I wanted this camera when it was first announced, and we're talking about the Sony ZV-E1 and why it is possibly the best camera still for content creators. So guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Connor Wells. Nice to meet you. A little bit of background to me. I'm a photographer, videographer, and podcast producer. I do this full time. And yeah, let's get into the video. So we're going to start off with some specs of the Sony ZV-E1. I don't really script videos too much. I've got a few notes, but I don't really script videos word to word. So if there's any mistakes, apologies. So the Sony ZV-E1, it's a 12 megapixel sensor camera. It's a full frame camera. It has an ISO range of 80 to 102,400, which is absolutely mental. It has 5-axis sensor shift image stabilization. That's a tongue twister. It's got a 3-inch fully articulating screen right here, so it means it's fantastic for vlogging. It is advertised as a vlogging camera after all, but I disagree with you there because I think it's so much more. It's got 10 frames per second continuous shooting. It can shoot 4K up to 120 frames a second and Full HD up to 240 frames a second, which is absolutely nuts. It's got 10-bit 422 color sampling, and it only weighs 483 grams. So this camera is spec'd to the max. It is an incredible camera. I've been using this for bits of short form content for myself, for my clients. I've used this on corporate work. I've shot some music videos with this. It is a very capable and very versatile camera, and I think Sony are doing a disservice calling it a vlogging camera. Some other things that I forgot to mention: it has a single SD card slot. It takes the UHS 2. It has a micro HDMI port, a headphone jack. It has a USB-C port and obviously a mic input as well. So this camera isn't really missing too much in terms of its overall form factor and the specs that it's got as well. Let's get into some pros. This camera is absolutely tiny. And the fact that it's this small and has IBIS, mental. Like, you would not expect a vlogging camera to have IBIS. You'd probably expect like a camera like this to rely on, let's say, the lenses image stabilization in them, but no, it actually has IBIS. If I turn it on, let's have a little look. So it's got three different levels of IBIS. So it's got standard, active, and then dynamic active. Now, obviously, each one is going to crop in. Don't be disappointed. That's just how IBIS works. You're gonna crop in. The next thing I love is the widescreen cinematic vlog mode. I don't use it too much, but it's quite a cool little thing to play around with, especially if you're new to filmmaking, new to vlogging. The cinematic vlog mode can be quite cool. I'll put up some example things of it now. The lens I'm using is a Sony 50mm 1.8, just for reference, but obviously it adds those black bars. It gives like a different color grade, different look to things. The next thing that I love about this camera is it has S-Cinetone and S-Log3 picture profiles. Now, I use like a little mixture combination of S-Log3 and S-Cinetone. It's one that I saw on Matti Haapoja's video talking about best picture profiles and settings for your Sony cameras. I've been using it ever since I saw that video, and it's been perfect for me on all of my cameras. So that includes the Sony ZV-E1 and the A7 IV, which I'm filming on right now. This camera has great looking 10-bit 4K 60. It's got 4K 120. And the footage is amazing from it. Now, we're going to get into some downsides of using those camera settings and using those frame rates, especially in 4K, but working with this footage it's fantastic. I cannot fault it. I've never really sort of come away from a shoot, whether it's been a client's project or, just shooting for something for myself. I've never looked at the footage and thought, this is going to be a pain to work with. This is going to be a nightmare to color grade. But no, this camera it's an absolute beast. But the main thing I love about this camera is the size. Now, obviously, I have got a grip on this camera. I've got a small rig grip. You can see right here because screw it, let's get into some cons. One of the cons is the thumb grip, the hand grip. It's not very deep. Thumb or hand grip isn't very deep, and I did not feel comfortable being out and about with this camera given its sort of plasticky format without any sort of protection on it. So I decided to put a small rig cage on it that actually extends the grip really, really nicely and makes me feel a lot more comfortable, you know, running and gunning with this camera. If I'm at a festival or if I'm at an event or a corporate job and, you know, I'm going everything handheld, then it feels a lot more secure. You've obviously got the mounting points as well. So yeah, I would suggest, if you're going to get this camera, is cage it up. The next con of this camera is, like I mentioned at the start, it has a micro HDMI port. I don't know if you can see that there. Micro HDMI port. You probably can't see it. It's tiny. It's absolutely minuscule. I hate cameras that have the micro HDMI ports. I know Canon's used to do that for a while. I think on the new R5 it's like full-size HDMI port, but the ports break so easily. The cables break really easily. I've gone through about 3 like HDMI to micro HDMI cables because I connect it to a little field world monitor up there on my camera. No issue with my Sony a7 IV with the full-size HDMI to full-size HDMI. It's just micro HDMI. It's really, really flimsy. It's not secure, but buying a cage, there is a little bit of a workaround, and I'll show you. Bear with me. I'm going to do like the whole Sam Sulek hat mic kind of thing. It looks dumb, I don't care. So when you buy the small rig cage, depending on which one you buy, you get this tiny little thing. It's very small, but it basically screws into the side here. So I'm gonna screw that in a little bit, and basically you take your micro HDMI cable over here, you slot it in very, very delicately, and basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna screw that in, and it's going to lock it into place, and it's going to stop the HDMI from like wiggling about. You can basically like hold it there like that. This is risky. Anyway, but it's nice and secure. It ain't going anywhere. Again, it sort of changes the form factor a little bit. You got this little silver thing that like sticks out, but you know, we move, it's what's got to be done. The next con, it can overheat. Don't not be surprised that this camera overheats because it is tiny. It's not going to be able to filtrate the airflow as good as other cameras like the Sony a7 IV, which a lot of people say overheats. I've never got it to overheat. I've shot in the sun at festivals with 4K 60. Obviously it crops to, you know, cool down the sensor to make sure it doesn't use the full width of the sensor. Bit of a bum, but there we go. But yeah, this camera can overheat. Now, I personally have never got it to overheat in 4K 60, but it does overheat pretty quickly in 4K 120, but that's understandable. It's a lot of frames per second to process. The file size is going to be quite big, and this camera is tiny, so don't be surprised if it overheats in high frame rate settings, especially in 4K. I don't know about the 1080p to 40 frames a second because I don't really shoot anything in 1080p anymore, but there we go. Now, the final con on my list is that this is, I believe, the same sensor that is in the Sony a7S III, and that is 12 megapixels. Now, Sony market this as a vlogging camera. A lot of vloggers will want to take photos, but this is only a 12 megapixel sensor. It takes 12 megapixel photos, so would I like more megapixels? Probably. You know, 24 megapixels would be great, 33 like the Sony a7 IV, even better. I wouldn't expect anything more than 24 megapixels, but on a camera like this, but 12 megapixels, it's okay. It's okay in a pinch if you're just posting it for social media, but if you're going to be using this for any sort of professional photo work, I would probably suggest using a different camera, but again, that's not really what this is designed for. It's more targeted to the vlogging community who want a small camera that gives great results. But for photography, the images are great, they're good, but you can definitely notice that it is going to be just 12 megapixels, especially when you start to like crop in or zoom in and reframe your stuff in the edit. Now, the question is, would I recommend this camera to you? Absolutely. I love this camera. I shoot corporate work with it. I shoot music videos. I shoot my own content with it. Hey, I'd be using it right now if I didn't have to have it in my hand to show you that I do actually own this camera, hence filming on the Sony a7 IV. But I love this camera so much. It is a great camera. The fact that it can shoot 4K at 120 frames a second is absolutely insane, especially in a camera this small. The fact that it has 10-bit, the fact that it's full frame, absolutely mental. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that it has apparently a very good high quality microphone. So that little grid thing up there, that's the microphone. Personally, I don't use it because I like to have like a lav mic or a shotgun mic on top if I'm vlogging. So yeah, I don't really use that, but from what I've read is the reviews are really, really good for the internal mic if you don't have access to a microphone. Another thing that I have actually been using for vlogging quite a lot, apart from this, is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Let me know if you'd like to see a review of that. That is my thoughts on the Sony ZV-E1. I love this camera and I do believe that it is the perfect camera for content creators. If you got some value from this video, please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video very, very soon. Peace.